Hello, this is Dominic from the Jack and Dom Radio Show, a weekly sports radio program, and although we broadcast on professional hardware, we do record our show mostly on my laptop, and sometimes I don't press record right when we start. Some shows will start right in the middle of a topic. Regardless, this show is a work of love and passion for sports with raw and transparent opinions between the two of us. So I hope you all enjoy. This is the Jack and Dom Radio Show. Been a long, or feels like either way too long or way too short of a spring break. Jack, how are you doing?
I'm good. Way too mixed feelings.
Mixed feelings? Yeah, I know. It feels like I want another week of spring break, to be quite honest. I admittedly did not go to class today. I was just really exhausted from the week.
From the time change too.
And the time change, which I didn't know happened. It just happened. Like my phone and watch just automatically adjusted to the time. I didn't realize it was daylight savings time. Is it daylight, right? That's what it's called, daylight savings. So I just went through it. But some stuff to talk about today. If we have time, we will rehash a old topic that we used to talk about, I think, like over a year ago. But anyway, that being said, the opinions said on the show do not represent the opinions of this radio station or the university. And if you so choose, you are able to get the recording of the show on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We are also now on social media, so if you choose, you can currently find us on Twitter and Facebook. Just look up the Jack and Dom Radio Show. That being said, good evening, everyone. The men's basketball team won the Gilead Championship Tournament in Houghton.
Confetti.
Yes, first beating Grand Valley here, 85-72. Then going to Michigan Tech, beating them in a thriller of a game. You should have been there. It was insane. 69-68. Nice. And Lake Superior State in the conference final, 78-63. Now, and I know in that final, by halftime, it was 40-18.
Damn.
Yes. And there was a little bit of a comeback right in the beginning of the second half. The lead did eventually narrow to 8 points, but then kind of sprang back and went back and forth, and they never got the lead. I know that for the Michigan Tech game, but that would happen on Saturday. It was the Lake Superior State was on Sunday. We had the lead most of the game, but it was very close. And then it did kind of go back and forth at the end.
Especially with Tech's missed three.
Yes, one of their players did a step back three, missed it, but then they got the offensive rebound, threw it back up with no time left, but missed that shot. And let's just say the mayhem that happened afterwards. We essentially did a crowd rush onto the court with I think the 50, 60 people that we had, because the arena was packed with hundreds and hundreds of fans that were Tech fans, including their infamous football team that all look like they're part of some big fraternity. And they have like big whiteboards, and they like write and say weird stuff, and they like do a really good job trying to get into your head if you're in the opponent's
it's
head.
an intimidating road atmosphere.
It was very, very intimidating. Got very loud, especially when Tech would like score some big three or some point or like tie the game. But it was futile. It ended up not working out for them. It worked out for us. And what was, I think, the greatest moment after the game was when we were all celebrating on the court, and I just see President Brock Tesman running towards me with the biggest smile on my face and gives me like the biggest bear hug ever.
Oh,
and
that's
then
awesome.
he goes and moves on. But something happened where he got elbowed in the face accidentally. And he got a cut like right underneath
By
his
a
left
Tech
eye.
fan, or?
No. I think it was one of us.
Oh,
Because
like during the
everyone was
celebration.
jumping in
Okay.
around, moving around. He got hit in the
Oh.
head and he got cut. I'll have to show you a picture. There is a picture of him, but eventually there was just a lot of blood coming out of his face. He wasn't. He was still happy though because we all thought it was funny, including himself. But
That's a good win, though.
but yeah, a lot of the fans went on the court to celebrate, and literally within like less than a minute, like most of the fans, the Michigan Tech fans looked like they just disappeared.
I mean, yeah,
So.
it's really the only sport where
Yeah.
we have really been competing with Tech lately
Mhm.
and winning on a consistent basis. Because hockey, before this year, was kind of 50-50 in the last 5-6 years. But Tech had a lot more, obviously, tournament success. And then this year, obviously, it was not close.
And let me remind everyone, Michigan Tech and Lake Superior State are ranked, are nationally ranked.
They are good teams. They are arguably, according to the committee, better than we are.
Yes.
But what's really cool about this is you were there, so you can probably attest to it more. But the way the GLIAC tournament works is once you get to the top 4 teams, I think it is, right? You then host the semis and the finals, correct?
No, if you're the
the number 1 seed hosts the semis and the finals, right?
for the NCAA regional.
No. For the GLIAC tournament.
Yes, if you're the number 1 seed,
You host
the
the semis and the
remaining
finals.
highest seed after the quarterfinals.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to
hosts
say.
the rest of the tournament,
Okay.
which turned out to be Michigan Tech.
So here's what I think is cool and funny, and we can rub it into Michigan Tech a little bit.
Yes.
Imagine how it feels. You've just lost to NMU in a semifinal.
Yes.
And because of GLIAC tournament rules, which I just want to put out there are not typical because most tournaments you either play on a neutral site or you go to the highest site. Normally it's a neutral site. But when I say that, I mean like a lot of tournaments, say like it's the top 4 seeds and the 2 seed wins and the 1 seed, I don't know, loses to the 4 seed. The 2 seed would then host the next round, not the 1 seed.
But it's the next day. The game's the next day,
still.
and so
That's normal though.
travel.
For a lot of
Yeah, but
tournaments.
for that probably would work out maybe for Division 1 teams, but for smaller schools with limited budgets,
No,
it
I know.
might
I'm
be
just
in
saying.
the
I'm
best
just saying it's
interest. of-
typical. Or
just
you have the
having everything
situation where either the top seed or
Well, then it would
just a
have
random
been
neutral
at Lake
site.
Superior State because they were
Right.
number 2.
So either a top seed or a neutral site normally host. So
Yes.
the GLIAC is. They're not the only ones, but it's a unique-ish approach to a tournament.
Sure.
And so imagine if you're a Tech fan, and you are. They were the top seed, right?
Yes, number 1 seed.
So, they're like, we're going to win this conference tournament, right? Because when you're a top seed, you normally go into it thinking that you're going to win it. And for good
Yes.
reason. You're the top seed for a reason. Not only do you lose to your biggest rival on home court, but then you have to host another game on your home court that you're not even in because you got eliminated early.
Yep. Yeah, that happened to
And-
us last year.
Yeah, and I'm glad it happened at Tech because the last couple of years have been just NMU sports has just been rough. Yes, the basketball team has been good, but
But it's-
even with the basketball team, there's been few and far between moments where I can say, "Wow, that felt so good." Like, yes, winning the conference tournament was great, winning the regular season title was great, but I feel like getting to do that at Tech, making them watch us not only beat them, but then watch us beat the final on their court that they weren't in, makes me really proud of the team, of the guys, of the coaching staff, of everybody involved. Like, that is such a cool thing, and one of the few, if not the only occasion lately where we've really gotten to rub it in Tech's face. And
Yes.
I hope to God you celebrated all night long and had a great time.
We were tired.
and-
We were tired. We all went to a restaurant that like very much was, I don't know what it was called, but it's like
No,
across
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like across the river. It's themed like a Cracker Barrel, but
But
but without the breakfast menu.
That's awesome, though, because NMU's had
But
few
yes.
and far moments lately to celebrate,
Mhm.
and that is a big one. And now you're going to the conference tournament,
Conference
the
final.
national tournament.
National tournament.
Excuse me, where I'll never understand the Division II bracket, so I wish I could explain it to you, but I don't understand it. First off, you have a team that won a conference tournament as, what are we, the 6th seed? 4?
4 seed.
Okay, so 4 seed is still pretty low, in my opinion, for a conference tournament winner. Typically, they are a top 3 seed. I understand the regular season record that we have was not as good.
Yeah.
But still, that's anomaly number 1 that I see in this tournament. Anomaly number 2 is the fact that if you look at the tournament bracket, if you're interested at all in our basketball team, which if you're not, I highly recommend you get interested because A, basketball is fun, B, they're a bunch of cool dudes, and C, they actually win games, so it's actually, enjoyable.
Unlike one other team that we don't talk about.
I haven't been to any games. I need to change that. But,
Cough, cough, cough. Sorry.
Yeah, and I know, I'm a hypocrite. But, what's really interesting to me is the fact that you have on our side of the bracket in our, the Midwest, what do they call it?
Just Midwest region. Yeah, Midwest region.
You have us versus a GLIAC team, Tech.
We're facing Tech.
For the crowd, that's like, tee-hee-hee, this is rigged.
We're facing them a 4th time.
Right, you've got some bulletin board material there. I don't necessarily think that's the case, but I do think when they were deciding the last couple teams, presumably, they go, oh, NMU and Tech. Imagine that. So certainly an interesting matchup there. And then if you win that game, I'm not jumping the gun. I'm just saying if you win that game, what then happens is you get matched up against, I believe it was Ferris State.
The winner of Ferris and someone from a different conference. Do you have a picture of it somewhere?
That's what I'm.
I should have this pulled up. I am very disappointed in myself that I didn't pull this up.
But I think it's really interesting how the bracket has played out and how NMU is going to be playing against teams from the GLIAC, which could be both beneficial or bad. Oh, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. It's Lake State. So you're going to have back-to-back, presumably.
Oh, Lake State. Okay.
I have confidence that Lake State will beat Lincoln, Missouri. I have confidence in that. Lake State is a very good team. If we beat Tech, which I think we probably got about a 50-50 chance, just like we did in the last one. But we have momentum, and we have that win. On the other side, Tech's got frustration, rage, that anger built up. So it'll be a great game, I'm sure, and hopefully I can find it on TV or radio and tune into it. But presumably, let's jump to the hypothetical that Lake Superior wins that game. You're then going to have an all-GLIAC matchup in the next round, no matter what happens in our game. And what's even more interesting is the other GLIAC team that got a bid, Ferris State, is the 5 seed in that region. So if Ferris State was to win their first game and then upset the 1 seed, you would be playing against another GLIAC team. So it's just interesting to me that they're all kind of in the same spot in the bracket and not spread out a little bit more. Because when you look at the D1 tournament, you look at the Big Ten, for example.
Yeah, how does the D1 tournament work? Don't they, spread it around everywhere?
Yeah, they intentionally seed teams all across regions so that you don't get, an all Big Ten matchup. So they would have adamantly avoided what happened to NMU and Tech, which, by the way, Northern Michigan as a 6 seed, I was right, it's a 6 seed, not a 4 seed, I'm sorry, is criminal. Criminal.
Yes.
We are better than that. I guess the GLIAC just isn't that strong of a conference, and so we're all underseeded. But why Tech is a 3 seed and we're a 6 seed, I couldn't tell you. But anyway, so intriguing matchups there. If you choose to tune in, we'll just let you know that those are on the 15th, Michigan Tech, Northern Michigan at 1 p.m. And
it's at an interesting location because even though Missouri S&T got the number 1 seed for the region, for some reason, this is just to the best of my knowledge, because the university is either unwilling or unable to meet the NCAA security requirements for the event, it's going to be in Springfield, Illinois.
Why Springfield, though?
I don't know.
Because are there any teams from here that are... There's no teams in our region that are from Illinois. So why wouldn't... I guess Lake State probably doesn't have the capacity to host it either, and so then you just kind of have to go down the list.
I guess it's smack dab right in the middle of the region, maybe.
That makes sense, but I also think Lake State is probably not the best place to host it because it's a little bit smaller. And then I think they would argue that Tech is too far away, and at that point you're getting all the way down to the 4 seed. So it's okay. And you have 2 teams from Missouri in our region, so it makes a lot of sense. 3 teams from Missouri in our region. Maybe
probably
4.
better overall facilities, maybe.
So that, yeah. better facilities, but also you put it more easier for teams to access. If you put it in the UP, Missouri teams would have quite the commute. If Northern Michigan,
we have airports.
well, sure, it's just travel costs get higher and it's more
Yes.
difficult then. So that's probably why it's there. But if NMU was to beat Tech, which again is March 15th at 1 p.m. if you choose to tune in, we would then play the winner of Lake State and Lincoln, Missouri, presumably Lake State, the 16th at 6 p.m. again if you choose to tune in. So a fun, would be this weekend of matchups if you are interested in those if you choose to tune in.
Of course.
So certainly some exciting news ahead for our basketball team. Wish them all luck. I'm sure you'll be there. So hope you have a good time and we get a positive performance. If I'm not mistaken, have we won a tournament game? I don't think we have we?
The women's team, I think last year won 2 games or won a game, and then
But the men's has not, have
and
they?
then faced Grand Valley
Yeah,
and got
yeah.
smacked.
But men's has not won one, have they?
Not in a while.
So this is a
Not
golden
in a long
opportunity.
while.
You have 2 rematches against 2 teams you just beat. Theoretically, you could make it to the regional finals.
Yes.
So, yes, we're a 6 seed. Yes, we're
And-
underseeded. Yes, Lake State and Tech are good.
And I
You
want to
have a
remind
golden
everyone.
opportunity here.
And I want to remind everyone. So, like, you guys know about my my NMU sports tier list. So right now, I would put them A tier. But if they make an impact in postseason, because
Yes, then you get an A plus.
S tier.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Remember,
about
there's S tier. Yeah. So to get to S tier, you have to make an impact in postseason.
Right, they got to win both those.
That's
games,
why,
I think, to get this team.
So you have to make an impact. What that means exactly is a little subjective, you know. Deciding up to me, you know, it's my decision regarding where I put them.
Right.
But you know, if you win a few games in postseason, given how you won the conference, given how you did a pretty decent job in regular season, yes, I would put you in S tier. Now, if you win the national championship for your division or for your sport, oh yeah, you're automatically up there.
Oh, absolutely. But so another interesting thing I want to mention.
Can I talk about the women?
Yeah.
So even though the women's basketball team lost in the semifinals, we were able to get a at-large bid to the tournament, and we would be going to Allendale, which is where Grand Valley is located, to face Hillsdale. The school I do not like for political reasons, blah, 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 but that's not the subject of this. That is beyond the scope of the show. However, I will say they do not have a Title IX policy, so there is also that as well.
I'll comment here.
I don't like Hillsdale, as you probably know.
Well, I don't like them now because we're playing against them. So
I don't like them at all.
But what's interesting here is there must be some policy in D2 where you put teams together because you've got 4 GLIAC teams once again in the same region.
Yeah.
So I think D2, just based on what I'm seeing, like all the California teams are in a region 2, all the Texas teams. It's really interesting to me how D2 does not split up the regions like D1 does. But you've got Ashland at Ferris State in the game above us, the 2 against the 7, us versus Hillsdale. Ashland will be a really hard game, but and so will Hillsdale. But I think the women are in a good spot, and I think they are certainly capable of winning a couple games and potentially getting themselves into S tier as well.
There was a few years ago where Parkside was the 8 seed in the GLIAC tournament.
And won it.
Somehow won the whole thing.
Wow. Okay.
Beating Northern Michigan in the final like 105-60.
Wow.
According to Coach Matt, his words, not mine. It was the worst day of his life.
This was
He
the
said
men's team?
he said in a press conference.
It's certainly
He mentioned this was like the worst day of his life. But anyway, what I'm saying is so the 8 seed beats the number 1 seed in the first game because
right.
yeah, and then wins the whole tournament. The NCAA punishes the GLIAC because such a weak team won the conference. It punished the conference. Parkside was the only GLIAC team to go to the postseason that year.
That's interesting to me because
then lost in the first game.
Right, but I think it's really unfair to punish the conference because conference tournaments are so unpredictable.
Sure, but
you
8 seed teams Like,
It happens.
come on.
It's happened before. I've seen like 3-24 teams in D1 go on a run and win the conference. It's all about momentum. Very rarely do the best teams in the conference actually win the conference tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you get into like the Big 12 and divisions where you have like very dominant teams. So like, yes, I can understand why they penalize the conference because you're having such a low seed win it. But at the same time, your upper seeds were still theoretically pretty good throughout the season, and so it's a little unfair, I think. Maybe you have less teams, instead of 4, you have 2 or 3, but to just have Parkside make it, I think is a little bit unfair to the GLIAC. Despite the fact that I think GLIAC is one of the weaker conferences.
I think it also could have been said that the other conferences in the region were very strong.
Could be that too, yeah.
So you could only put Parkside there because the weak Parkside team won the strongest teams in the conference, but because overall they were just so bad, it must be that the other teams are bad.
I think you have to let at least one other team go.
Yeah.
It's very rare.
Because Northern Michigan did not go to postseason.
Right, and they should have. And that's not even me being biased. Second best team in the conference, if it's a decent conference, should go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think of a decent, like, non-Power 4 conference in the NCAA.
Well, in basketball, there's
5,
a lot
actually, because you got Big East. But there's plenty. And if, say, I don't know, Montana was like 26-3, like they are pretty much every year, lose in the title game, I think it's really unfair to be like, well, they didn't win it. Mm-hmm. Like, regular season play, even if the conference is weak, has to count towards something, or what's the point?
Yeah.
If an 8 seed wins and kicks out everybody else, then why do I care about the regular season?
Mm-hmm.
I get home field advantage, but like if an 8 seed is winning, clearly the home field advantage doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I could be wrong on that. If someone, I mean, that's just.
That's an interesting story, though. But I think it's a little bit unfair to the GLIAC, and I'm glad that 4 teams made it in this year because 1, I think it's a strong GLIAC on the men's side, and 2, I think it's important that you have at least 2 teams from every conference because you're right. Parkside might have been a really bad team that just got lucky and had momentum. Can't really penalize other teams for that. But speaking of basketball,
can I mention one more thing?
Yeah.
So for the conference final, after winning the conference final, the team gets to bestow the tradition of cutting down the net. And when you cut down the net, each player as well as each team member, and like other notable people for the team or the university gets to like get a little piece of the net, including the school president, including the bus driver. The guy, which is awesome. Which is awesome. He's actually a great guy. Also includes the intern team managers, which includes myself. So I have, I keep it in my wallet for now. But yeah, I have like a 3-inch piece of the net, which is super cool. To be able to do, but yeah, a lot of good memories that I will definitely remember for the rest of my life. I don't think I'm gonna there's also rings, like you get rings for winning the conference. I don't think I'm gonna get anything like that, which is fine because it's like quite a bit of money. I think to you get like a limited number. If you want any more, you have to pay more.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's also that as well, which I think is also pretty cool.
It's certainly exciting to see.
But it is very, very exciting. I got a piece of the net, which is all I could ask for.
Get a display case for that one.
Yeah, which is all I could ask for.
Okay, so basketball, it's March, so we have to talk about basketball.
Yes. Big Ten, Michigan State, let's go.
Yeah, Michigan State, Maryland, Michigan, and UCLA with the double byes in the tournament and the top 4 seeds. You have Northwestern Minnesota, Iowa, Ohio State, and USC Rutgers playing. I've seen that image so many times.
That's all right.
Playing in the first round. Dom just showed me an image of crying Michigan fans looking at Michigan State with the trophy.
With the Sparty
for our viewers, I just want to remind you that my
It's
Michigan team only had 8 wins last year, and we are happy to literally grasp anything. We hit 20 wins, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
I knew we were going to get blown out by State twice. Didn't care. It's just the fact that we are no longer the worst team in the conference makes me happy. And we have a good coach that we can build on. Okay, it's a rebuilding year. You, as a Michigan State football fan, should understand the importance of rebuilding years.
Yes.
I think years are going to last a heck of a lot longer than Michigan basketball's rebuilding years are. But that's another conversation for when we get to September, if you're still around. But back to the Big Ten tournament and not me joking about Michigan State's mediocre football team.
Oh, stop.
The bracket is really interesting to me because there's certainly some room for some interesting matchups. If you go by semi-favorites, which I think is going to play out this way, if Wisconsin wins their game, it's going to be Wisconsin and UCLA. Indiana, Oregon is a toss-up to play Michigan State. Not sure what's going to happen there, but I think State wins that easily no matter who it is. It's an 8 seed for a reason. Illinois will likely beat Ohio State and Iowa, so they'll play Maryland, and I think Purdue will play Michigan. So here's where it gets interesting. Michigan State, you can all but say, is going to go to the finals because they have such an easy run. When UCLA is the hardest team you have to play, just write them in at this point.
Yeah.
Wisconsin's difficult too, but write them in the final at this point. UCLA Wisconsin's going to be a really tight game. I actually see Wisconsin upsetting them. So then you'd see Michigan State, Wisconsin in the semis, which I think State will win. I have a lot of respect for that team. I like Izzo a lot, despite the fact that I'm a Michigan fan.
Mm-hmm.
Illinois, Maryland, I actually think Illinois will win. So you'll have 7-seed Illinois in a semifinal. And then Michigan, Purdue is a toss-up because Purdue blew them out the first time and then we beat them the second time. Way we're playing, though, I see Purdue beating us just because we've been so poor. So that sets you up with Purdue versus Illinois and Michigan State versus Wisconsin. I have Michigan State beating Wisconsin and Illinois beating Purdue. And then I have Michigan State winning the conference, which I'm sure you're happy to hear. Since you're the 1 seed with a really easy path, I foresee Michigan State cruising to a conference title and more than likely a number 1 seed in March.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with Izzo's record in March, I'm not really sure how that one's going to go.
Only one national championship, but we've been to the Final Four. And
right, I trust that you're going to win, get to the
handful
Sweet
number of
16,
times.
but I don't see you winning a title or anything crazy. But I do think you're going to win
call
the
it
Big
March
Ten.
Madness for a reason.
Right.
I mean, Loyola Chicago shouldn't have been
Right,
where it
but
ended
you're
up.
not a Cinderella.
No.
You're a favorite, just not the favorite.
Yes.
And for good reason. But I think State will win the conference tournament for the Big Ten pretty easily. Set themselves up well. I think my Wolverines...
Who do you think the 1 seeds will be this year?
We'll get to that 2 seconds.
Okay.
My Wolverines will end up being a 4 seed.
Okay.
So, since you brought it up, let's talk some... I don't want to get too into the weeds about it, but we can talk a little bit of bracketology.
Yeah, I don't know the teams that are going to end, like the at-large bids and all that. I don't know...
Right.
I don't know who's gonna end up where.
Yeah, and it's obviously subject to change based on how the conference tournaments go. But I'm looking at ESPN's prediction, and I will modify ESPN's prediction to give you what I think is going to happen. Because I think ESPN can often really show some biases in its models towards certain conferences.
Yeah.
Normally it's the SEC, but not in basketball. Okay, so I think 1 seed, you can say without a doubt Auburn. Number 1 team in the country. Well, they were. I don't know if they are now. New rankings will come out shortly. But top team. 1 seed is more than likely. This bracket has Florida as a 1 seed. I think it's going to be very close between Florida and Michigan State. And I think if Michigan State wins the conference title, they will get it. I think what will happen is whoever wins the SEC will get a 1 seed.
Okay. Do you think Houston will pull
Houston
up?
will get a 1 seed for sure.
How about Alabama?
No.
Tennessee?
No.
St. John's?
You're going way down the list now.
Duke?
No. Well, Duke will, yeah.
You don't think
it's
Duke
going to
will?
be... No,
Okay.
Duke will. So it's going to be Duke for sure.
Auburn.
Houston for sure. Either Auburn, Florida, or both. And I think Michigan State is a sleeper pick for a 1 seed.
Okay.
Especially with the overall relative strength of the Big Ten. In terms of results that I think would be relevant to people from the Midwest, this bracket has Ohio State in the first 4. I have Ohio State not in the tournament.
Interesting.
I don't think they're going to make it. They've had some bad losses. Other Big Ten teams, you've got Oregon as a 5 seed, which I think is fair. State as a 2 seed, I see them about as a 2 or a 1. Maryland as a 4 seed, I think that one's fair. Let's see here. Wisconsin is a 4 seed, I think is fair. Michigan as a 6 seed is absolutely insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm biased, but a 6 seed, come on. Michigan, I think, is a 4 or 5 also.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of teams in the Big Ten that are really in that like middle ground, but 6 seed is insane. That, I think, is disrespectful because you have Purdue, Wisconsin, and Maryland as 4 seeds. Michigan beat Wisconsin in their only matchup, beat Purdue in 1 out of 2, and I think lost to Maryland. So Wisconsin and Purdue ahead of Michigan by that much is crazy. But Purdue is a 4 seed. You talked about Alabama, they're a 2 seed. Indiana, an 11 seed. I don't know if they're making the tournament. I don't really agree with that one. But in terms of what we're seeing, it's really interesting because SEC, which has been a poverty basketball conference for forever, is going to dominate the top seeds in this field. And UCLA is 6th. I forgot to mention that. I think early favorites in this tournament, you've got Auburn, you've got Florida, you've got Houston, you've got Duke. Yeah, I know I just named all the 1 seeds. And Alabama, which will be a 2 seed. We'll talk more about it when we get closer to tournament time and you see the real bracket and we can fill out brackets on our own and then talk about them on air. But if you want a quick sneak peek into who I think is going to make a run in this tournament, and I'll be wrong because every expert is wrong about this every year, but it's always fun to speculate a little bit. I think Michigan will go to the Sweet 16. I think State's going to go to the Elite 8. So those are the 2 relevant ones for fans around here. I've got a couple people that I know that are Wisconsin fans. I see them going out in the round of 32. But more interestingly, I think St. John's is going to make a run. I think they're going to be a surprise. They're going to be a 3 or a 4 seed, but I think they're going to make a run. I think Arizona is always scary in these kinds of tournaments. I think you're going to see a surprise from Illinois. I think Illinois is going to probably be the best Big Ten team. They are on fire right now.
Okay.
They can only go up. Gonzaga's an 8 seed. I really would not be surprised if they upset number 1 seed Florida.
They're joining the Pac-12 next year.
That also is really important. But, this is a hypothetical bracket, so we don't know if they're going to be against the 1 seed. But if Gonzaga's an 8 seed, I fear for whoever that 1 seed is. That's like the matchup you do not want to have. In this bracket, Michigan State would have to play the winner of Marquette-Baylor. And Marquette is a good team, and that'd be certainly an interesting one to watch. I think another sleeper is going to be kind of one more. I think Clemson basketball is another one that could potentially do it. But interesting as we approach bracket season.
Go here before you continue. For anyone who is just joining us, this is WUPX 91.5 FM HD1 Marquette. This is the Jack and Dom radio show. Just talking about NCAA brackets. Go right ahead.
So what's really interesting here is they have the last 4 teams that get byes, which means they don't have to play the first 4. As Baylor, Utah State, Arkansas, and Arizona. Last 4 in, which means the first 4, you have San Diego State, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Xavier. And then teams that just miss out, you have Boise State, North Carolina, Texas, Colorado State, Nebraska, Wake Forest, Cincinnati, and Dayton. So that's 2 Big Ten teams that barely make it in and 1 that is left out. And so that's why, a lot of people look at the Big Ten tournament and they go, oh, if it's not my team, I don't care. Oh, if it's a really low seed, I don't care.
Yeah.
But winning 1 of those games, heck, even 2 of those games, is the difference between being in or out when you're a lower seed. And when you're a higher seed, it can really matter.
Yes.
Michigan's projected,
especially when you lose the first game,
right.
Virginia a few years ago.
Well, that was during the tournament, not beforehand.
Oh,
that was against the 16 seed.
Oh, okay,
will never be forgotten. But
and it happened again. Not with Virginia, but I think didn't Purdue lose?
Yeah, that was a really fun moment because I obviously root against Big Ten teams that are our rivals. But those games really matter, and upper seeds matter too because State is on the brink of getting a 1 seed. You sweep the tournament, you get a lot closer to that. You lose the first game, you start thinking maybe they're a 3 seed. Michigan is apparently a 6 seed according to ESPN, which I think is a travesty, but sure. Michigan beats a good Purdue team, you probably move up to a 4 or a 3 seed. So even 1 game matters in these conference tournaments. And that's where you see the Cinderellas, right? Loyola Chicago wins a tournament they their tournament. You have you, I think, told me on a previous show about Florida Gulf Coast, Dunk City.
Yep, I remember.
Won a tournament
FGCU.
and made a run in the tournament.
That's some pretty cool jerseys too.
That is how it happens. It starts in the conference tournament. You see, it's sometimes the favorite. Sometimes the one seed will win the tournament and go on a run in March. But normally it's an underdog team that has no business winning the tournament, goes and wins the tournament, takes that momentum into March, and then
beats
runs
some good
with
schools.
It.
Yeah,
exactly.
They FGCU lost to Florida.
Did they win the national title that year, or was that several years prior?
I think that was several years prior.
But it's certainly interesting and something to keep an eye on as we get closer to March, kind of how that final field will form, and also for those of us that are Michigan State, Wisconsin fans, I guess theoretically you could be fans of other Big Ten teams too if you're farther away. But it'll be interesting to see kind of where our teams end up. And I don't know about you, but I always enjoy the bracketology of March and finding out that my bracket is busted in the first couple minutes.
Yep.
It's a fun yearly activity that I do.
No one is yet to win the $1 billion.
It won't happen, and I'm curious to see if NMU will do another bracket thing this year. It was a lot of fun last year. But we're going to pivot to another sport that I think doesn't get as much attention as it should during the month of March, and that is football and free agency.
Yes, what happened?
The Detroit Lions signed cornerback DJ Reed for cheaper than the guy they had, and Carlton Davis. Really good salary, and he was opposite Sauce Gardner, who, if you know football, you know he's one of the top 10 corners in the league, and actually outplayed Sauce Gardner. However, the Lions cut Zadarius Smith, which I am a little bit confused about because that means their second edge rusher is a no-namer that was an undrafted free agent. So you have nobody opposite Hutchinson. So
they should have kept him one more year.
In Brad, I trust. Like, they saved a lot of money by getting rid of him, like $12-13 million, which is a lot for Z Smith. Mm-hmm. But if you're the Lions, a lot of the defensive linemen have already been signed. You got to, one, re-sign Kevin Zeitler or another guard. But two, you have got to get a good edge rusher opposite Hutchinson. If you double-team Hutchinson, you have McNeil and DJ Reader in the middle. Reader's more a run stuffer, but solid pass rusher. McNeil's a really good pass rusher.
Yeah.
You get a good edge opposite Hutch, not asking for, like, Hubbard, the best defensive end in the league that wants $30 million a year. I'd love it. I don't need that. Just somebody competent on the other edge that doesn't get hurt. Not Marcus Davenport. He'll get hurt on day one. Somebody else. You then create a really strong defensive line. You make it hard to double-team Hutch. You get a lot more pressure on the quarterback, which, by the way, we had none of literally the entire season, and is one of the many reasons why we got blown out by Washington. But you then also get pressure off your secondary. So if you decide not to sign any more corners, which I hope they do, get a couple more depth guys. But if they don't, that means DJ Reed can go out there and be your best corner. Amik Robertson from the Raiders, who we got for cheap and absolutely outplayed his contract, can continue to blossom. Terrian, fresh off his rookie year, can get those penalties down. He actually played pretty good when he didn't get pass interferences. I think he was pretty underrated. Rakestraw, our other rookie from the second round, comes back from injury, and despite the fact that I still question that pick, Bragg clearly saw something in him. And you've got, potentially, if you decide to re-sign him, Ife Melifonwu for depth. So, not a bad secondary, not a great secondary, but when you have a pass rush, that secondary is no longer a liability. They can then use Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, DJ Reed, these other studs on the back end of the defense, and actually start intercepting the ball, causing pass deflections, sacking the quarterback. Like, it can all come together. But if you're the Lions, your Super Bowl window is now. You're not going to have a better chance than now. So you've got to go out there.
I thought the better chance was last season.
Well, it was. But now you're nearing a missed opportunity. So you got to do it now.
And I think the benefit of having good upper management is that when it comes to those chances, it's not like you have a special season and you never see it again. Those chances can reappear.
Right.
And have it be realistic to expect those. So I think
what I think needs to happen
about this team
is you got to get a premier edge rusher, and then you're in good shape. Draft well. We have every year. and then go out there and compete. Green Bay made some moves. The Vikings made some moves. The Bears made some.
Can I talk? The Vikings can do the funniest thing.
And what's that?
So because they traded Sam Arnold, they can try to get Aaron Rodgers.
Well, they're gonna. I can tell you right now, they won't because my
They
boy.
can do the funniest thing.
It's not gonna happen. My boy J.J. McCarthy is gonna be the man out in Minnesota.
And for those who don't know, I'm referring to Aaron Rodgers' predecessor for the Packers, Brett Favre,
Doing
the same thing, where he was in the Packers for a bunch of years, then the Jets, then the Vikings. Aaron Rodgers
What about Atlanta?
Could go to Atlanta. Well, I thought Kirk Cousins is in Atlanta right now.
No, I was just saying as a joke because Brett Favre went to Atlanta too, I believe, for a year.
Was that where he was drafted?
Might have been. He was in Atlanta either way.
Okay.
But yeah, you make a good point there. I just think they've got J.J. McCarthy, and I want to see him fail because he's a division. Well, I don't want to see him fail. I want him to be good, but I want the Vikings to fail. So it's kind of a middle ground of I want my Michigan player to do good, but not against us.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to have a great season because, I mean, any quarterback could step into that system and dominate because of the weapons they have. Packers made a couple signings, and then the Bears said, screw it, we have the worst offensive line in the league, and then made it one of the best. So if you're the Lions, you see your division rivals making moves, there is no time like the present to do something. A lot of the top edge rushers are already off the market. You are running out of time. I trust this team, but you gotta do something. So we'll see what they do, but certainly intriguing there. I will skip over other free agency moves. We'll cover that later in free agency when we get some more clarity on some of those bigger moves. Speaking of trades, heavy sigh. We got to talk about the Red Wings.
What happened?
So, in case you haven't followed the Red Wings for the last couple of years, which I don't blame you because they've been so mediocre, despite the fact they were a hockey town, Red Wings have been kind of in the playoff chase the last couple of years and not made it. They were in a playoff spot a couple weeks ago. Now they've kind of faltered. They're a few games out. So, conventional logic would say, good young core, good veteran pieces, we just got a new coach. Let's make a couple trades, right? Get us in the playoffs and see what happens, right? NHL, we've had lower seeds go on runs all the time, just like we mentioned in March Madness. So, conventional logic, right? At the very least, you try something, right, to contend. I'm not saying go out and get the best player in the league. I'm just saying you try something to contend, right? Well, instead, you trade a decent young player that you probably could have re-signed for another mediocre goalie. So now Detroit has 4 mediocre goalies and no good ones, and a fourth line forward. So basically, you got a downgrade at forward, and you got a goalie that probably won't play with an inflated contract. So, as a Red Wings fan, you got to ask the question. Our current GM has been in charge for, I believe it's 7 going on 8 years now. The Red Wings really have not, I don't think they have made the playoffs at all in those 7 or 8 years. Because that 25-year streak ended quite a while ago, I think, back in like 2015. So, yes, you've got a lot of great young players in the system. You've drafted very well, but zero success to show for it. And they really haven't done well in free agency except for Patrick Kane. The signings have been mediocre. The trades have been mediocre. So you start to ask the question. Despite the fact that Steve Yzerman is a legend in Detroit and always will be, is what will get the Red Wings over the hump a change? Because you have a roster that is playoff caliber. You've got a good new coach. Detroit fans are begging you to trade. Like, we're all in. We're invested. We are really excited for the team for the first time in a while. And you go out there and make an incredibly mediocre trade. Incredibly. Oh, you made another trade.
I'm assuming it's not as bad as the Luka trade, right?
It's not a bad trade. It's just mediocre. You got nothing for nothing.
Okay.
And they also acquired a 4th-round pick to take on some salary. Again, 4th-round pick is not much, right? So, as a Red Wings fan, it really frustrates me and it pains me because the city of Detroit has been yearning for success. And the Tigers have really done the same thing, where they were really good last year, but then didn't really pick up any studded free agents, right? Mm-hmm. The Pistons have done a better job. We'll get to that in a minute. But the Red Wings and Tigers are now stuck in this place where they are good, they are competing, but by not picking up any additional pieces, you question if they can make it a run. Right? Tigers haven't been good since like 2014. Red Wings haven't been good since about the same period. We've been waiting a long time. We've been waiting about a decade now. And, as a fan, I think it's reasonable to be frustrated in the lack of moves. You had plenty of teams around you make incredible deals to get top players. Not asking for a top player, just someone solid. Something to show that you are competing. And instead, they kind of stand pat and make this trade that I don't think is going to make much of a difference. So it's just really frustrating to kind of see that trend, that pattern of not seizing the moment. Much like the Lions, who if you don't make some moves, you're not seizing the moment.
Yeah.
You got to go all in. You have the pieces you need. Speaking of all in, have you checked in the Pistons lately, Dom?
I heard they're doing decent.
We are
According to the show sheet, you wrote decent run. So I tell you, I think they're doing a decent run.
Nice of you to read that. We are currently 18.5-point games back of first, which sounds crazy, but the Cavs are having a record season.
Yeah.
We are
without LeBron.
Right. We are just a game back of the number 4 seed Bucks, and 7-3 in our last 10. So the Pistons had pretty much, not on paper but in practice, clinched a playoff spot, with potential to go up to a 4 seed. Imagine for a minute. Team that hasn't competed in the playoffs since I would argue like 2005. They've been in it, but they get swept every year in 5 games in the first round, right? This team has not been relevant since probably 2005, maybe like mid-2000s, right? So it's been 15, 20 years, okay? Imagine Pistons get the 4 seed, you're favored to win a playoff series, and the first game of the series gets to be at the LCA. Can you imagine the atmosphere, the excitement that this city would have?
I don't think I can, because that kind of excitement has not been, I guess, for Detroit Pistons since like 2004.
2005, we thought we'd do it again, but yeah, the early 2000s with the Bad Boys, right? So
well, the Bad Boys.
Well, I know we're the 80s, but I
80s,
consider the
early
2000s
90s.
Bad Boys too because they were physical, they were defense.
Yeah, but they wouldn't punch you in the
Well,
gut
they
every
punched
time
you in the gut,
try
Dan
it.
Campbell style instead of literally. You get the idea.
Bill Laimbeer, remember, Bill Laimbeer was nicknamed the Prince of Darkness.
I know it was even worse in the 80s, but that 2000s team had some dudes.
They were interviewed recently about like their antics back in the day, and they said we'd be in jail right now if they did what they did then today, or a team did what they did today, they'd be in jail.
Yeah,
their words, not mine.
But there's not been any excitement since the early 2000s. Imagine again.
Well, the Blake Griffin.
But they were terrible.
Yeah.
After that, imagine this. Okay. I am going to go on a limb and think of something crazy that the Lions probably make the playoffs again. I know, shocking. Why would I ever think that? But I go on a limb and say the Tigers sneak their way into the playoffs again. I'm going to go on a limb and say this Pistons team makes the playoffs. If the Red Wings can get their crap together, imagine if all 4 Detroit sports teams win the playoffs. How this city would react. Now, chances are all 4 of them are going to get eliminated pretty early in the playoffs. But this city needs a win. Detroit's been, economically,
kind of like
socially,
our football program.
Right, but not even just sports-wise. Economically, socially, Detroit has been struggling for decades.
Yes.
To have something for the entirety of Detroit to unite about, to get excited about, to have all 4 of those teams in the playoffs. Not only that, but those teams being in the playoffs means more revenue for the city, right?
Yes.
Local businesses really benefit from that kind of stuff. There's actually statistics that show crime goes down when sports teams are good. Like, a plethora of things that happen. I think it would be incredible for this city if we could see that. And I think it would be incredible for this city if the Lions could finally put it all together and win a Super Bowl. So I think it's an exciting time for Detroit sports fans. Before we wrap up, I just want to cover, I know soccer is not as big of a sport
Well,
here. in the U.S.
Can I talk about the topic that I promised at the beginning of the show?
All
We have
right,
just a
all
few
right,
minutes.
all right.
Okay, so we're bringing back worst stadium foods. And this is and when I bring this up to you, I want you to go from a 1 to 5, like a scale from 1 to 5, where 1 is sure it's a weird it's a weird thing to eat, but like I won't have stomach problems, to I think like a 3, or a 3 is I won't experience anything until I'm in bumper to bumper traffic on the way back home, to 5 where within the same game I'm going to the restroom. Okay.
Okay.
So the runner up on this list is any sushi at any stadium. So you go to any stadium, you eat sushi. The sushi that's there, right? Remember, raw fish. We're dealing with raw food here.
That's a solid 2.
Solid 2. Okay. For the
Tell
Oakland,
me yours too, by the way.
Sure. I mean, I'm reaching 30. I literally had to Google diet recommendations for men at 30 because I'm not kidding. I went to Culver's. I just had a double cheeseburger, and I had stomach issues after, and I'm like, I need to rethink my life. So I don't know. I feel like this is like if I was maybe in my early 20s, would
That's
be different.
fine. I'll just do it.
Than my 30s. Everything's almost a 4 or 5 now.
All right.
All right. Flamin' hot cheese steak at Oakland Coliseum.
5 because I'd refuse to eat it because I don't like anything flaming hot.
It's Flamin' Hot Cheetos.
Right. I refuse to eat flaming hot.
With
Cheetos.
like Cheese Whiz.
But that'd
and
be a
chocolate
5
mix.
if I ate it. I hate all of those things, so I wouldn't even eat it. So I guess that's a 1 because I wouldn't eat it.
No. If you already did eat it, but anyway.
5.
So this has apparently have peanut butter in it. This special blend burger is topped with peanut butter, jalapeno jelly, American cheese, and bacon served in a botch bun. This is called the PBJ burger at Citizens Bank
2,
Park.
and I would actually eat that if you held the jalapeno jelly.
Okay.
Give me like a strawberry jelly and then revive it.
They do this for the Detroit Tigers.
Uh-oh.
It's an apple pie filling with wonton wrappers deep fried.
That sounds
They call
delicious.
it the apple pie egg rolls.
1, and I want that now.
Okay. I'd try that. I would try that. For the Boston Red Sox, in this dish, sweet potato fries are topped with crushed peanuts, cilantro, peanut sauce, and fluff sauce. What is they say? What is wrong with a little barbecue sauce? Honestly, this sounds like it would be a soggy mess by the time you got to your seat. It's called the Fluffer Nutter Fries at Fenway Park.
3,
at Boston.
and it just doesn't sound that good.
Yeah, this is something I think you need to use the rest. Like you're T-minus 30 seconds ready to launch, but you're bumper to bumper traffic. In Pittsburgh, they have what do they call it for this dish? Kielbasa, pierogi, Swiss cheese, sauerkraut, and Russian dressing are served in a giant waffle cone.
That sounds disgusting.
They call it the Pittsburgh Cone at
4.
PNC Park. Ooh, at this. So this one's in Canada, the Toronto Blue Jays. It's a dish that has fried pickle straws, peanut butter gravy, cheese curds,
5,
bacon
and
bits,
that sounds
and
disgusting.
fresh dill scallions.
5. All right, give me one more, and then we'll wrap up the show.
Okay.
Give me your best one.
Okay. As part of this partnership between Major League Baseball and food vendor Aramark, several new and strange dishes have been rolled out at baseball stadiums recently. This sandwich, which features pulled pork topped with barbecue sauce, bacon bits, and Reese's peanut butter cups,
Oh,
is one
that's
of them.
diabolical.
They call it the barbecue Reese's sandwich at Kauffman Stadium
I
for the
still
Kansas
only
City
give it
Royals.
a 2. It just doesn't sound good.
But look at the photo for it. That's what it looks like.
Okay, I up that to a 3.
Yeah, just by
All right.
looking at it,
So
it looks it's like it looks like pulled pork, Reese's mixed and mashed together, put into a sandwich. How does that? I can't imagine how that will taste.
What I wanted to close with is that free agency will be continuing in the next couple weeks. So it's interesting to see if Detroit makes any other moves. Then, of course, we will keep you posted on future shows if that occurs. Happy, I guess, first week back. Hopefully you're having a good Monday.
Yeah.
I know
I slept
you
all
missed
day.
class, so that's got to be fairly enjoyable.
I sleep.
But
all the time.
I had a couple meetings today, so busy day for me. But enjoy the sunshine, everybody.
Yes.
Enjoy the week.
It's like 51 degrees right now.
Right. Have a good one. Enjoy it. I know most of you here are snow lovers, but I personally think this is the perfect Marquette weather. Get out there, have fun, enjoy your first week back. Let's make this a great second half of the semester. And don't be like the Red Wings and slack at the deadline. Get your stuff done. All right.
Yes.
With that being said, good night, everybody.
Yeah. Anyway, this is the Jack and Tom Radio Show here on WPX 91.5 FM HD1 Marquette. We will see you guys next week.